Hey, it's Brad. It's day 11 of our 30-day summer habitat marathon. I told you yesterday that I wasn't coming out to the hunting property today, but I'm here. So if you've been following us on our summer habitat marathon, yesterday we had a very significant rainfall, 2 inches plus here at the hunting property, and that led to a very full creek. Now, if you haven't seen that episode already, I encourage you to go watch that quick before you jump into this one, because it'll give it a lot of context. When I was out here yesterday, it was pretty clear that it was very unlikely that it would make any sense to come out today because of how wet everything was. I couldn't drive my Kubota UTV out here, and even though I had the tractor and the brush hog on the other side of the creek where I have a lot of mowing to do, the likelihood was that the ground would still be too saturated on the hills that I have to mow to make it even worth my while. So it didn't make a lot of sense. However, my curiosity got the better of me because I couldn't even see the low water crossing yesterday. And as I was driving over the same bridge as yesterday, you remember how high that was, I could tell pretty quickly that it had receded enough that I think I would be able to see the low water crossing. I cannot tell you how happy I am at how this performed. Remember yesterday I couldn't even see anything, so I had no idea what was taking place underneath the water. All I knew was it was rushing fast. And in theory, the low water crossing was doing exactly what it was supposed to do if it survived. And it survived. It did a really good job. Matter of fact, there was only some very minor issues, one that I probably expected anyway, but the probably biggest issue that I'm gonna need to address here at some point before the hunting season is the area that I had some of the thin set concrete that you watched in my fix video that I did last year. It did get pushed out. Now, the whole point of that was to keep everything below from getting washed out over a short-term heavy rain event. And it certainly did. What we don't want to have happen is have the water get underneath there and then in the winter freeze, and then it expands and cracks and kind of pushes that up. So we're going to let this dry out, then we're going to put some more thin set mix in there and get it back to where it was before. So the point of it wasn't to have a solid piece of concrete, but we did do exactly what I was hoping to do with the combination of the riprap preventing it from getting in there. And I was super happy with that. The other issue, which is to be expected, is when you have debris floating down the river, you're gonna get the potential to have the culverts get jammed up with some debris that's floating down, and that's certainly what we found here. It wasn't enough to totally prevent the water from passing through the culvert, so I just took a little bit of time and pulled those out. The left-hand side culvert's actually flowing, I think, 100% clean. The right side looks like there might be something still kind of plugging it up, but we'll take care of that once the water recedes far enough for us to take a look in there. But you can see right here that it's doing a great job of moving that water through. I can walk over this no problem. Once everything dries up with some of the dirt and the mud, I'll be able to drive anything over this. So that is obviously our entire point. That is what we were hoping for. That is what I got. Super pleased with this. Yesterday I was lamenting that I didn't have my drone out here so that I could take it down the creek to get a better view of what the water was doing. I didn't have very good access on the sides of the bank because of the mud, and just it wasn't really a smart idea for me to get too close. So I had very limited viewability. Now today it's a lot lower, but I do have my drone. You can kind of see here how I went upstream a little bit from the low water crossing, and we're gonna kind of go down a little bit. But what I want you to pay attention to is, again, I've said this time and time again, to look at the sides of the creek and see the vegetation that's been knocked over from the highest point of where that water flow was happening. And that to me is really what is impressive about this. And again, it got that high and my low water crossing still stood. I'm not shocked about the slab. The slab is gonna stay there. I put that rebar pretty far into the ground, and I'm not too concerned about that. It's more about the sides and how good my riprap's gonna do. And like I told you already, it really feels like it did pretty much as good as it could do considering how badly the water had risen. Now, the one other issue that I'm dealing with is not the actual low water crossing, but again, as we take a look at all that vegetation that's pushed over and how high that got, what is happening is that is still causing us some issues on our approaches. So I have gravel in between the tire tread areas so I can get down here, which is fine for a majority of the time. But what's happening is, even as it's knocking over all that vegetation, you're still actually grabbing some of that mud and just depositing it right where I'm gonna be driving. So there's probably gravel still underneath, but I don't know what I'm going to actually be able to do about that, because in my worst case scenario / best case scenario, if I were to extend the slab up the hill on both sides, even if I did that to prevent any more erosion, which would be our ultimate goal, I don't know what I would do as far as preventing any of this mud from coming on over. It doesn't matter what I have there. Actually, it'll be a little bit easier to clean because I'll just take a shovel and clean it. So maybe that will be my ultimate solution. But for right now, I cannot tell you how happy I am. Have I said that already? About how this has performed. You never know going into this. We're gonna have another rain event that's like this. This is gonna happen again. I've seen the vegetation pushed over before, but this is obviously the game changer to get us across the creek. So that is what we were hoping to see. That is what I saw, and pretty happy about it. So before we started filming here on the low water crossing, I did get a chance to go check out where the tractor and the brush hog were at, and they did just fine. They weathered the storm just fine, but the ground around it as we're leading up the hill, which I need to go up to do most of my brush hogging, was still a little bit too damp. It isn't just the grass and the weeds itself, but I don't want to create any more ruts that I need to. So we're gonna wait another day. I will be coming out tomorrow. We're gonna hit it hard. Even if I have to be very careful going up the hill, there's plenty of work to do up there that we're gonna be able to get to tomorrow. And we should have a pretty significant day with no rain, let's hope. And then we'll be able to knock out some of those projects we keep getting pushed off because of the rain. And it looks like we're gonna get a little bit more rain on Sunday into Monday. So tomorrow is our day to really knock a bunch of that out. Speaking of that, we probably will end up throwing out a little bit more food plot seed just to cover some of the areas that haven't been growing. Take a look here. We are seeing some continued growth. So that rain was fantastic for our food plots. And speaking of food plots, I'm going to go ahead and probably end up getting our food plot done at our home property. If you remember, we sprayed that about a week ago now. So we're going to try to catch that rain, because I don't believe them anymore, but it looks like after Monday, we have a stretch of about 7 to 10 days where we don't have any rain. We've heard that one before. I was actually able to technically do a little bit of work today, as I was able to finally mount a trail camera on the other side of the creek that I couldn't get to yesterday. So there we go, we did some work out here. To be honest with you, I need to get out of here pretty quickly because we have another heat advisory this afternoon, and I can actually finish the mowing at our home property that I literally have not been able to complete in over a week. So this is like a never-ending project. We're gonna knock that out. We're gonna go ahead and wrap up today. I wanna thank you so much for following along. I have been really frustrated by not being able to get as much work done as I was hoping to because of all this rain, but we're gonna keep going. This is part of the reality of managing a hunting property. And here in South Central Iowa, this has been a very abnormal summer in regards to rain. So we'll work with what we got, all right? I will definitely be out here tomorrow, so I hope you'll tune in. And once again, watch Brad work.